I'm Whitney, 34, and for years I've been the family rock working double shifts as a hospital administrator to pay my mom's medical bills while she pretends I'm nothing. Last week, my life imploded when my cousin secretly live-streamed our family dinner, capturing my mother calling me a desperate failure to thousands of strangers online. The worst part, I just helped her pay for another expensive treatment. If you're dealing with toxic family members too, let me know where you're watching from, hit that like button, and subscribe to join our healing journey together. Growing up with my mother was like walking on eggshells that somehow turned into glass shards when I wasn't looking. From my earliest memories, nothing I did was ever quite good enough. My grades were never high enough, my achievements never impressive enough, my appearance never polished enough. There was always something to criticize, always some way I could have done better. When I was 15, my world collapsed when my father suddenly passed away from a heart attack. He had been my buffer, my protector, the one who would wink at me across the dinner table when my mother started her critical monologues. With him gone, there was no one to dilute the constant criticism that flowed my way. The practical impacts of his death were immediate and harsh. My mother had been a stay-at-home parent for most of my life, with minimal work experience and no college degree. Suddenly, she was thrust into the role of sole provider, something she reminded me of daily. We struggled financially, moving to a smaller house in a different neighborhood. I started working part-time jobs at 16 to help with bills, often sacrificing study time and social activities. Despite these challenges, I managed to graduate high school with honors and secured a partial scholarship to a state university. I chose to major in healthcare administration, seeing it as a practical field with good job prospects. College was a delicate balancing act of classes, part-time work, and managing my mother's expectations and needs. While other students were enjoying the full college experience, I was sending half my paycheck home and calling daily to check on my mother. After graduation, I was fortunate to land an entry-level position at Mercy General Hospital. The pay wasn't great, but it offered stability and health benefits. I rented a tiny studio apartment to keep expenses low and continued to support my mother financially. Every month, I would send her money for bills, groceries, and other expenses. It was never enough in her eyes. "This is it. Do you know how much heating costs these days? I guess I'll just wear 3 sweaters around the house," she would say, even though the amount I sent covered her utilities with room to spare. 5 years ago, everything changed when my mother was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, and an autoimmune condition that required specialized treatment. Her health insurance covered some costs, but there were substantial out-of-pocket expenses for medications, treatments, and specialists not covered by her basic plan. Without hesitation, I stepped up to cover these additional costs, even though it meant significant sacrifices in my own life. I downgraded from my already modest studio to renting a room in a shared house with 2 roommates. I sold my car and started taking public transportation. I cut every possible expense from coffee shops to new clothes to occasional takeout meals. My life became work home and managing my mother's medical appointments and bills. Through all of this, I held on to a desperate hope that my sacrifices would finally earn my mother's approval. That one day she would look at me with pride instead of disappointment, with gratitude instead of expectation. That she would see me as the dedicated daughter I was trying so hard to be. "You're just doing what any decent child would do," she would say whenever I helped her. "It's the bare minimum, really." Throughout these years, my cousin Tara remained a constant presence in our lives. 2 years younger than me and my mother's sister's daughter Tara, had always been the golden child in our extended family. Where I was studious and serious, Tara was vivacious and social. Where I chose practical career paths, Tara flitted from interest to interest, always with my mother's enthusiastic support. "Whitney, why can't you be more like Tara? She's so full of life," my mother would say, even as I worked 60-hour weeks to support us both. In the last 2 years, Tara had found her calling as a social media personality. She started a YouTube channel that focused primarily on family drama and relationships. She would share stories about friends and family, often embellishing for entertainment value. I always felt uncomfortable with her content, but tried to be supportive of her creative pursuits. Little did I know how her online ambitions would collide disastrously with my life. Despite my mother's ongoing criticism and Tara's favored status, I continued to work hard and support them both. I told myself that family sticks together through thick and thin. I told myself that one day all these sacrifices would be worth it. I told myself that deep down my mother appreciated everything I did for her, even if she couldn't express it. I was wrong on all counts. 2 months ago, after 7 years at Mercy General, my dedication finally paid off when I was promoted to Senior Administrative Coordinator. The promotion came with a significant salary increase and better hours. For the first time in years, I could see light at the end of the financial tunnel. I might even be able to start saving for my future while still supporting my mother's medical needs. I called my mother immediately after receiving the news, my voice trembling with excitement. "Mom, I got the promotion, the one I've been working toward for 3 years." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "Well, it's about time. Maybe now you can upgrade your health insurance contribution for me. The coverage on my physical therapy is terrible. No congratulations, no pride, just another expectation, another demand." I swallowed my disappointment and agreed to look into better insurance options for her. Later that evening, I shared the news with Marcus, the man I'd been dating for the past 8 months. We had met at a healthcare conference where he was representing a medical equipment supplier. Unlike previous boyfriends, who had grown impatient with my limited time and financial constraints, Marcus seemed to understand my situation and supported me through it. "Whitney, that's fantastic news. You've worked so hard for this. We should celebrate." His enthusiasm was everything my mother's wasn't, and I found myself blinking back tears of relief at being truly seen. Over dinner at my favorite Thai restaurant, a luxury I rarely allowed myself, Marcus gently broached a subject he'd hinted at before. "I hope you don't mind me saying this, but with this promotion, have you considered setting some boundaries with your mom? You've been supporting her for years, often at the expense of your own well-being." I pushed my pad thai around my plate, uncomfortable with the direction of the conversation. "She's my mother, Marcus. She needs me. Her medical condition is serious." "I understand that," he said, reaching for my hand across the table. "But from what you've told me, she was treating you poorly even before her diagnosis. Supporting her financially doesn't mean you have to accept emotional abuse." "It's not abuse," I said automatically, the denial coming easily after years of practice. "She just has high standards, and she's in pain a lot of the time, which makes her irritable." Marcus nodded but didn't look convinced. "Just think about it. Okay, you deserve to be treated with respect, especially by someone you're helping so much." His words stayed with me in the following days as I planned how to use my increased salary. Even with the promotion, supporting my mother's medical expenses and saving for my own future would require careful budgeting. I created spreadsheets and calculated costs, trying to find the perfect balance. As my birthday approached, my aunt suggested a family dinner to celebrate both my birthday and my promotion. I was hesitant, knowing how these family gatherings typically went, but a small hopeful part of me wondered if this time might be different. Maybe with my professional success, my mother would finally see me as accomplished rather than lacking. I invited Marcus to join us, wanting my family to meet the man who had become so important to me. It would be the first time I brought anyone to a family gathering since college, a fact that wasn't lost on me. Part of me had always been too embarrassed by my mother's behavior to expose partners to her criticism. "Are you sure you want me there?" Marcus asked when I extended the invitation. "Yes," I said with more confidence than I felt. "It's time they met you. And honestly, I could use the moral support." In the days leading up to the dinner, I noticed Tara posting cryptic messages on her social media accounts. "Family dinner drama coming soon," and "You won't believe what's about to go down," accompanied by smirking emojis. I dismissed it as her usual attempts to build anticipation for her content, never imagining it had anything to do with me. My anxiety grew as the dinner approached. I had a new outfit picked out, a subtle makeup look planned, and talking points prepared about my promotion that emphasized how it would benefit my mother's healthcare. I rehearsed responses to potential criticisms and steeled myself for the inevitable comparisons to more successful relatives or friends' children. What I couldn't prepare for was the public humiliation that awaited me. The evening of the dinner arrived with that peculiar mix of dread and hope I'd grown accustomed to feeling before family gatherings. I spent extra time getting ready, putting on the new navy blue dress I'd splurged on after my promotion, and styling my hair in soft waves. Marcus arrived at my apartment looking handsome in a button-down shirt and slacks, a small bouquet of flowers in his hand. "For the dinner," he explained, handing them to me, "and moral support for you." He squeezed my hand, and I felt a surge of gratitude for his presence. We arrived at my mother's house precisely at 6. She still lived in the small 2-bedroom ranch house we'd moved to after my father died. I'd helped her refinance it years ago to lower her monthly payments, another financial assistance she rarely acknowledged. The driveway was already full with my aunt and uncle's cars, as well as Tara's distinctive red Volkswagen, with its personalized license plate, Wythe Queen. I took a deep breath before knocking on the front door, Marcus's steady presence beside me providing comfort. My mother opened the door with her customary look of mild disappointment, as if I'd already done something to annoy her simply by existing. "You're right on time," she said, managing to make punctuality sound like a character flaw. Her gaze flicked to Marcus. "And this must be Michael." "Marcus," I corrected gently. "Mom, this is Marcus Thompson. Marcus, this is my mother, Diana Pierce." Marcus extended his hand in the flowers. "Pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Pierce. Thank you for having me in your home." My mother accepted the flowers with a tight smile. "Diana is fine. Come in, everyone's waiting." The living room was filled with family members, my Aunt Patricia and Uncle Robert, their son Brendan, and his wife Sophie and Tara, who was tapping away at her phone with intense focus. She barely looked up when we entered. "Whitney's here," my mother announced unnecessarily, "and she brought her friend." "Boyfriend," I corrected, trying to keep my voice light. "Marcus and I have been dating for 8 months now." 8 months? My Aunt Patricia raised her eyebrows. "And this is the first we're hearing of him." I felt a flush creep up my neck. "We've both been busy with work, and you know how it is with schedules." "Well, better late than never," Uncle Robert interjected jovially, standing to shake Marcus's hand. "Welcome to the family chaos, young man." The initial introductions were followed by an awkward period of small talk as we moved to the dining room. My mother had prepared her signature pot roast, a dish she knew I had little appetite for, but continued to serve whenever I visited. I noticed Tara positioning her phone on the sideboard, angled toward the dining table. "Are you taking pictures, Tara?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "Just setting up for some family memories," she replied with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "You know me, always documenting." I should have been more suspicious, but my attention was diverted by my mother's pointed questions to Marcus about his job, his family background, and his intentions with me. He handled the interrogation with grace, answering honestly without revealing too much personal information. As we settled into the meal, the conversation initially revolved around neutral topics: the unseasonably warm weather, Brendan and Sophie's home renovation project, and my aunt's recent cruise vacation. I began to relax slightly, thinking perhaps the evening wouldn't be as stressful as I'd feared. Then my mother cleared her throat and fixed her gaze on me. "So, Whitney, tell everyone about this promotion you've been going on about." The phrasing stung, suggesting I'd been boasting rather than sharing good news, but I pushed forward with the explanation I'd rehearsed. "I've been promoted to Senior Administrative Coordinator at Mercy General. I'll be overseeing departmental budgets and staffing for 3 major units, including the new cardiology wing. It's a significant step up in terms of responsibility and compensation." "That's wonderful, Whitney," Aunt Patricia said warmly. "You've always been such a hard worker." "Does this mean you'll finally be able to afford your own place again?" my mother asked, referencing my roommate situation. "At your age, it's a bit embarrassing to still have roommates, isn't it?" I felt Marcus stiffen beside me. "Actually," I said, trying to maintain my composure, "the promotion means I might be able to start looking at buying a small condo. I've been researching areas within my price range." "A condo?" my mother scoffed. "Why not a real house? Tara just put a down payment on that lovely 3-bedroom in Oak Park, and she's younger than you." I bit back the retort that Tara's parents had provided the down payment as a gift for her 30th birthday. Instead, I simply said, "A condo makes more sense for my lifestyle right now." "And what lifestyle is that?" my mother pressed. "Working all the time and barely having a social life." I noticed Tara adjusting her phone, a small smile playing at her lips. Something cold settled in my stomach as I began to suspect what was happening. I tried to maintain my composure as my mother's criticisms escalated, but a growing sense of dread filled me as I noticed Tara continually glancing at her phone with a barely concealed smile. Something was definitely off, and my suspicions were confirmed when I caught a glimpse of the phone screen from my seat. It showed an active livestream interface with comments rapidly scrolling by. My blood ran cold. Tara wasn't just documenting our dinner, she was broadcasting it to her followers in real time. Before I could process this realization fully, my mother's voice cut through my thoughts, her tone shifting from merely critical to downright caustic. "You know, Whitney always thought she'd be some big-shot doctor or hospital executive," she said, addressing the whole table but looking directly at Marcus. "But here she is at 34, just a glorified secretary with a fancy new title." "Mom, that's not fair," I said quietly. "Healthcare administration is a respected field, and I've worked hard to get where I am." "Oh, sensitive as always," my mother laughed, taking a sip of her wine. You've always been so desperate for approval for someone to tell you you're special. It's honestly pathetic to watch sometimes. The table fell uncomfortably silent. Marcus placed his hand on my knee under the table, a gesture of support I desperately needed in that moment. Diana, Aunt Patricia began cautiously. Whitney has accomplished a lot and supports herself independently. That's something to be proud of. My mother waved her hand dismissively. Independent, please. She calls me 3 times a week for advice on basic adult decisions. And let's not pretend she's some great success story. Look at her, 34, living with roommates, desperately clinging to this new boyfriend to validate her existence. I felt as if I'd been slapped. My mother had always been critical, but this public evisceration of my character and life choices was beyond anything she'd done before. And worse, I could see Tara's phone screen lighting up with comments as unknown viewers watched my humiliation unfold in real time. Mrs. Pierce, Marcus interjected firmly, I think you're being unnecessarily harsh. Whitney is one of the most dedicated and hardworking people I know. My mother's gaze snapped to him. Oh, you've known her for what, a few months? I've known her entire disappointing life. Did she tell you she had dreams of medical school once, but she couldn't handle the pressure, couldn't make the grades, always settling for less? That's my Whitney. Tears burned behind my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. I wouldn't give her or Tara's audience the satisfaction. Mom, can we please change the subject? I asked, my voice strained. Why embarrassed by the truth? You should be used to being a desperate failure by now, Whitney. Some people just aren't meant for greatness. The word failure echoed in my head as I watched reactions and comments pouring in on Tara's live stream. Complete strangers were witnessing my mother tear me down, and some were even adding their own cruel remarks. I felt physically ill. Diana, that's enough, Uncle Robert said firmly, finally intervening. But my mother was on a roll now, her words fueled by wine, and an audience she didn't even know she had. You want to know something funny? She continued, a mean smile playing on her lips. Whitney thinks she's some kind of saint because she helps with a few of my medical bills. She acts like she's supporting me entirely, when really it's just a contribution, and not even that generous of one, considering what these treatments cost. I stared at her in shock. A few medical bills I had been covering, almost all of her out-of-pocket healthcare costs for 5 years, often to the tune of thousands of dollars monthly. I had spreadsheets tracking every payment, every claim, every prescription. That's not true, I said, finding my voice. I've been paying for all your supplemental treatments, your medications, your therapy appointments, everything insurance doesn't cover. That's nearly 70% of your total medical expenses. Oh, please, she scoffed, always exaggerating your contributions. Classic Whitney trying to make herself sound important. It was then that I noticed Tara shifting her phone for a better angle, and something inside me snapped. Tara, are you live streaming this right now? I demanded loud enough to interrupt my mother's monologue. Tara had the decency to look momentarily caught off guard before her expression settled into defiant nonchalance. It's content for my channel. My followers love family drama. You're broadcasting this private dinner without anyone's permission, Marcus asked, his voice tight with controlled anger. It's my channel, my content, Tara shrugged. Besides, nothing is really private anymore, is it? I stood up abruptly, my chair scraping against the floor. Turn it off, now! Why? Tara challenged. Afraid people will see the real you, the one who can't handle a little criticism. This isn't criticism, Marcus said, standing beside me. This is abuse, and you're profiting from it. My mother laughed, then a cold, dismissive sound that cut deeper than any of her words had. Abuse? Don't be so dramatic. If Whitney can't handle honest feedback about her pathetic life choices, that's hardly my problem. I walked over to Tara and saw the livestream comments scrolling by. Her mom is savage, LOL. Damn, this is harsh. Whitney needs to stand up for herself. This is gold, Tara. Keep it coming. In that moment, I made a discovery that changed everything. As I glanced at Tara's phone, I noticed several previous messages in their text thread visible at the top of her screen. Messages between Tara and my mother planning this ambush together. Did you put her up to this? I asked my mother, my voice barely above a whisper. My mother's momentary expression of guilt was all the confirmation I needed. You planned this, I continued, my voice growing stronger. You deliberately set up this dinner to humiliate me on Tara's live stream. Don't be ridiculous, my mother scoffed, but her eyes darted to Tara nervously. I grabbed Tara's phone and turned the camera to face my mother. Did you tell Tara to live stream this dinner specifically so you could tear me down in front of an audience? Did you two plan this together? The comments started flooding in even faster as viewers sensed the dramatic confrontation escalating. "Give me back my phone," Tara demanded, reaching for it. "Not until you end the live stream," I replied, holding it away from her. In the ensuing scuffle, I saw more of their text exchange. My mother had indeed been working with Tara, suggesting talking points that would make great content and promising to give the audience what they want, with her criticisms of me. The betrayal was complete. Not only had my mother been belittling me despite my years of financial and emotional support, but she had conspired with Tara to make my humiliation a public spectacle for entertainment value. I ended the live stream myself, handed Tara back her phone, and turned to my mother. "I've paid over $80,000 for your medical treatments in the last 5 years." I said, my voice calm, despite the storm inside me. "I've sacrificed my own living situation, my savings, and often my self-respect to take care of you. And this is how you repay me." The table was silent. Even my mother seemed momentarily at a loss for words. "I'm done," I said simply. "Marcus, I'd like to leave now." As we gathered our things to go, my mother found her voice again. "Don't be so sensitive, Whitney. It was just a bit of fun for Tara's channel. If you can't take a joke, that's your problem." I turned back one last time. "Calling your daughter a desperate failure isn't a joke, Mom. It's cruelty. And I won't be funding it anymore." We left to the sound of Tara complaining about her ended live stream and my mother calling me overdramatic. But for the first time in years, I didn't care what either of them thought. Something had broken inside me, but in breaking it had also set me free. The drive back to my apartment was quiet at first. My hands trembled on the steering wheel as the full weight of what had just happened settled over me. Marcus respected my silence, simply reaching over occasionally to squeeze my hand in reassurance. "I can't believe they did that," I finally said, my voice small in the darkness of the car. "My own mother and cousin conspiring to humiliate me for entertainment." "It was unconscionable," Marcus agreed, his tone conveying controlled anger. "No one deserves to be treated that way, especially not by family." As we pulled into my apartment complex, the dam finally broke. I turned off the engine and sat there, tears streaming down my face as sobs racked my body. Marcus unbuckled his seatbelt and pulled me into his arms as best he could across the center console. "Let it out," he murmured, stroking my hair. "You've been holding this in for so long." Later, inside my small bedroom in the shared apartment, I sat cross-legged on my bed with my laptop while Marcus made us tea in the kitchen. With shaking hands, I opened Tara's YouTube channel and found exactly what I feared, a saved version of the live stream already titled "Family Dinner Drama Cousin Can't Handle the Truth." The video had over 2,000 views already, with hundreds of comments. Some expressed sympathy for me, but many more were laughing at my expense or criticizing me for not standing up for myself more forcefully. Tara had edited the video to begin just as my mother started her harshest criticisms, removing any context that might have made viewers more sympathetic to my situation. I reported the video for harassment, but I knew from Tara's previous content that YouTube's policies were inconsistently enforced. There was no guarantee it would be removed. Sleep eluded me that night. Long after Marcus had gone home with a promise to check on me in the morning, I lay awake replaying every moment of the disastrous dinner. But beyond the fresh wound of the public humiliation, I found myself revisiting years of similar treatment that I had somehow normalized. My mother calling my college graduation adequate, while lavishly praising Tara's associate's degree in social media marketing. My mother dismissing every boyfriend I'd ever introduced her to, while helping Tara plan elaborate dates with her rotating cast of partners. My mother minimizing my career accomplishments, while celebrating Tara's every minor YouTube milestone. Most painfully, I recalled all the times my mother had casually mentioned how much of a financial burden her medical care was, implying I wasn't doing enough, despite the significant portion of my income that went directly to her health care. Now I understood why. She had been systematically downplaying my contributions to our extended family, painting herself as the struggling martyr and me as the ungrateful, stingy daughter. Morning found me exhausted but clear-eyed. I made coffee and opened my laptop again, this time navigating to my financial records. I created a spreadsheet and began meticulously documenting every payment I had made toward my mother's medical care over the past 5 years. Hospital co-pays, specialist visits, physical therapy sessions, prescription medications, medical equipment, alternative treatments she had insisted on, trying transportation to appointments, grocery deliveries during her flare-ups, even the air purifier and special mattress she claimed she needed for her condition. The final tally made me gasp. $87, 342.19, nearly $90,000 that could have gone toward my own future, my own home, my own security, all given to a woman who had just publicly declared me a desperate failure. My phone had been buzzing with notifications all morning, mostly messages from family members who had either seen the live stream or heard about the dinner drama. Aunt Patricia had texted 3 times expressing her shock at my mother's behavior and offering support. Uncle Robert had left a voicemail saying he and Aunt Patricia had left immediately after we did, and were disgusted by the whole situation. Even Brendan, who usually stayed out of family conflicts, had messaged to say what happened was seriously messed up. There were also multiple missed calls and texts from my mother ranging from defensive, "You're overreacting as usual," to guilt-tripping, "After everything I've done for you," to demanding, "I need the payment for my specialist appointment by Friday." I ignored them all for the moment, focusing instead on the spreadsheet in front of me, and the decision crystallizing in my mind. At noon, Marcus came by with lunch and a supportive ear. I showed him the financial documentation I'd compiled. I've been paying for all this while living with roommates driving a 15-year-old car and barely saving anything for my own future. I explained the reality of it still sinking in, and she acts like I've been giving her pocket change. Marcus studied the spreadsheet with a low whistle. "Whitney, this is substantial. You've been incredibly generous often at the expense of your own well-being." "I thought I was doing the right thing," I said quietly. "I thought if I just supported her enough, if I just proved my worth enough times, eventually she would see me, really see me and be proud of me, or at least stop tearing me down." "That was never going to happen," Marcus said gently. "Not because you weren't doing enough, but because her behavior isn't about you at all. It's about her own issues, her own unhappiness. You could have given her everything, and it still wouldn't have been enough." Deep down, I knew he was right. No amount of financial support or filial devotion would ever transform my mother into the parent I had always needed. The realization was both heartbreaking and strangely liberating. "I've made a decision," I told him, closing my laptop with finality. "I'm cutting her off. Financially, emotionally, all of it. I can't do this anymore." Marcus took my hand. "I think that's a healthy decision, but are you sure you're ready? This is a big step." "I've never been more sure of anything," I replied, surprising myself with the conviction in my voice. "I've spent my entire adult life trying to earn her approval and respect, and all it's gotten me is publicly humiliated and financially drained. It's time I start investing in my own well-being instead." With Marcus's support, I spent the afternoon making phone calls, starting with my mother's healthcare providers. I explained that I would no longer be serving as the financial guarantor for her treatments effective immediately. I arranged for one final payment to cover the coming month, giving her time to make alternative arrangements. Next, I contacted my bank to stop the automatic transfers I had set up for her regular expenses. I created a detailed document outlining various financial assistance programs, payment plans, and resources available for patients with her conditions. I would send this to her along with a formal letter explaining my decision. Finally, I drafted the hardest email of my life. I explained to my mother that after careful consideration and years of emotional and financial strain, I would no longer be supporting her financially or maintaining regular contact. I detailed the exact amount I had contributed to her healthcare-attached statements as proof, and expressed my deep hurt at her persistent criticism and recent public humiliation. I concluded by wishing her well and suggesting resources for both financial and psychological support. It was firm, but not cruel, clear, but not vindictive. I saved it as a draft, planning to review it once more before sending. Before I could second-guess myself, I took one more decisive step. I blocked my mother's number on my phone and removed her from all my social media accounts. The immediate sense of relief was both surprising and telling. "How do you feel?" Marcus asked, as we sat together on my small balcony watching the sunset after this day of difficult decisions. I considered the question carefully. Sad, relieved, guilty, liberated, terrified, hopeful. All of it at once somehow. He nodded, understanding. "That sounds about right. This won't be easy, but I'm here for whatever you need." I leaned against his shoulder, exhausted, but strangely at peace. "Thank you for being here today, for supporting me through all this, for helping me see that I deserve better." "You do deserve better," he affirmed. "And standing up for yourself this way is an act of courage, not selfishness. Never forget that." As darkness fell, I felt the weight of my decision settling onto my shoulders. It wasn't the crushing burden I had expected, but rather the substantial yet empowering weight of taking control of my own life for perhaps the first time. Tomorrow would bring challenges, certainly, but also possibilities I hadn't allowed myself to imagine before. I would face them all on my own terms, without the constant drain of trying to fill the unfillable void of my mother's approval. That alone felt like victory. The next morning, I woke up with a surprising sense of calm. The paralyzing anxiety I'd expected after such a momentous decision hadn't materialized. Instead, I felt a clarity I hadn't experienced in years, perhaps ever. After my usual morning coffee, I sat at my small desk and reviewed the email I'd drafted to my mother. It was firm, but fair, detailed, but not vengeful. I made a few small edits to ensure the tone remained respectful, despite the difficult message it contained. Then, before I could overthink it, I hit send. Almost immediately, my phone began ringing with a call from my mother's landline. Though I'd blocked her cell number, I hadn't thought to block her house phone. For a moment, I considered ignoring it, but then decided that a direct conversation might provide better closure. "Hello, Mom," I answered, keeping my voice steady. "What is the meaning of this email?" she demanded without preamble. "Is this some kind of joke?" "It's not a joke," I replied calmly. "I've thought this through carefully, and I'm no longer in a position to provide financial support for your medical expenses." "After everything I've done for you?" Her voice rose with indignation. "I raised you as a single mother after your father died. I sacrificed everything for you, and this is how you repay me." I took a deep breath. "Mom, I've been supporting you financially for years. I've contributed over $87,000 to your medical care alone, not counting other expenses I've helped with." "That's what children are supposed to do for their parents," she countered. "It's your duty." "Supporting you was my choice, not my obligation," I said. "And I did it willingly because I love you. But after what happened at dinner, after you publicly humiliated me and coordinated with Tara to broadcast it online, I need to establish some boundaries." "You're so dramatic," she scoffed. "It was just a bit of fun. I was only joking around." "Calling me a desperate failure and pathetic isn't joking, Mom. It's hurtful, especially coming from my mother." "Well, if you can't take a little criticism," she began. "This isn't about criticism," I interrupted, something I rarely did with her. "This is about respect. I deserve to be treated with basic dignity, especially by someone I've supported so generously." There was a pause, and I could almost hear the gears turning as she realized her usual tactics weren't working. Her tone shifted abruptly from defensive to plaintive. "Whitney, sweetie, you know how I get sometimes. My condition makes me irritable, and the medication affects my mood. You can't take what I say so seriously. I've made allowances for that for years, Mom, but planning with Tara to livestream my humiliation wasn't an impulsive action or medication side effect. It was deliberate." "Fine." Her voice hardened again. "If that's how you feel, what about my appointment with Dr. Weiss next week? That specialized treatment isn't covered by my insurance. As I explained in my email, I've made one final payment to your medical account that should cover your expenses for the next month. That gives you time to explore the assistance programs I've outlined, or make other arrangements. And if I can't afford the treatment without your help, if my condition worsens—" The threat was thinly veiled. "There are many resources available," I said, refusing to take the bait. "I've provided detailed information about patient assistance programs, payment plans, and community resources in the document I attached." "I can't believe you're abandoning me like this," she said, her voice cracking with what might have been genuine emotion or calculated manipulation. After years of the latter, I could no longer tell the difference, and that realization itself was heartbreaking. "I'm not abandoning you, Mom. I'm establishing boundaries that should have been in place long ago. I'll always care about your well-being, but I need to prioritize my own mental health now." "Your mental health," she scoffed. "What about my physical health, my actual medical conditions?" "They're both important," I replied, "but I can no longer sacrifice one for the other." The conversation continued in circles for several minutes more, with my mother cycling through guilt, anger manipulation, and bargaining. When she realized none of these approaches were working, she finally resorted to threats. "If you do this, Whitney, don't expect to be welcome in this family anymore. Your aunts, your cousins, everyone will know how you abandoned your sick mother." I had anticipated this. "I've already spoken with Aunt Patricia and Uncle Robert. They understand my position and support my decision to establish healthier boundaries. This seemed to genuinely surprise her. "You've been turning my own family against me. I've been honest with them, that's all, just as I'm being honest with you now." After a few more attempts to change my mind, the call ended with my mother declaring that I would regret this decision and that she wouldn't be available when I inevitably came crawling back asking for forgiveness. I set down the phone and exhaled slowly. The conversation had been difficult but necessary. I felt drained, but also strangely empowered. For perhaps the first time in my adult life, I had stood my ground with my mother without backing down or compromising my own well-being. My next call was to Tara. I wasn't sure she would answer, but to my surprise, she picked up on the third ring. "What do you want?" she asked, her tone guarded. "I want you to take down the live stream video," I said directly. "It's invasive, hurtful, and you didn't have permission to record or share it." "It's my content," she replied defensively. "My followers love it. It's got more views than anything else I've posted this month." "It's my life, Tara, not content for your channel. You recorded and broadcast a private family dinner specifically to capture my mother belittling me. Look, I'm sorry if your feelings got hurt, but this is how I make my living. I can't just take down my most popular video because you're sensitive." I took a steadying breath. "Tara, what you did wasn't just inconsiderate. It was potentially illegal. Many states have laws against recording people without their consent, especially in private settings." "Are you threatening to sue me?" she asked, her voice rising. "I'm asking you as family to do the right thing and remove content that was obtained unethically and is causing harm. If you refuse, then yes, I will explore legal options." There was a long pause. "Fine," she finally said. "I'll take it down, but I think you're overreacting just like Aunt Diana said." "Thank you for removing it," I replied, ignoring the barb. "And Tara, I think it's best if we take a break from contact for a while. I need time and space to heal from this." "Whatever," she muttered before hanging up. I checked her channel later that day and found the video had indeed been removed, though she had posted a new vlog complaining about family censorship and cancel culture. I chose not to engage further. Over the next few days, I received a flurry of communications from extended family members. Some were supportive, having witnessed my mother's behavior firsthand over the years, or having seen the live stream before it was taken down. Others were critical, having heard only my mother's version of events, and believing I was cruelly abandoning her in her time of medical need. I responded to each message thoughtfully, explaining my position without defensiveness and setting clear boundaries about what I was and wasn't willing to discuss. I didn't try to convince anyone of my perspective. Those who truly knew us would understand, and those who didn't weren't worth the emotional energy of persuasion. With each conversation, each email, each text exchange, I felt my resolve strengthening. The guilt was still there, a low hum in the background of my thoughts, but it no longer controlled my actions. I had spent too many years allowing guilt to override my own needs and boundaries. That chapter of my life was over. 1 week after the fateful dinner, I received an unexpected call from my mother's longtime physician, Dr. Campbell. After confirming my identity, he shared something that both shocked me and confirmed my worst suspicions. "Whitney, I wouldn't normally discuss a patient's information, but your mother has listed you as her healthcare proxy and emergency contact. I feel you should know that some of the treatments and medications she's been requesting aren't actually necessary for her condition." I sat down heavily on my couch. "What do you mean?" "Her fibromyalgia and autoimmune condition are real, but they're well managed with standard treatments covered by her insurance. The specialized treatments, experimental medications, and alternative therapies she's been pursuing, often at significant out-of-pocket cost, aren't medically indicated for someone at her stage." A cold realization washed over me. "Are you saying she's been exaggerating her need for these expensive treatments?" Dr. Campbell chose his words carefully. "I'm saying that as her physician, I haven't recommended many of the treatments she's pursued, and in fact, I've advised against some of them due to limited evidence of efficacy and potential side effects. She's been seeking multiple opinions until she finds doctors who will prescribe what she wants." I thanked him for the information, my mind reeling. Not only had my mother been minimizing my financial contributions, but she had been maximizing the need for them, creating a situation where I felt constantly obligated to provide more and more support for treatments that weren't even necessary. This revelation solidified my decision. I wasn't abandoning someone in desperate need. I was removing myself from a manipulative dynamic that had drained me emotionally and financially for years. With this new clarity, I took one final step. I wrote a letter to be sent to my mother and key family members detailing my decision, the reasons behind it, and my hopes for healthier relationships in the future. I included Dr. Campbell's insights without being accusatory, simply presenting the facts as part of my explanation. I ended the letter with a paragraph that felt like both a conclusion and a beginning. I will always care about my mother's well-being, but I now understand that true care doesn't mean enabling harmful behavior or sacrificing my own health. Moving forward, I'll be focusing on building a life that honors both my responsibilities to others and to myself. I hope that someday we can establish a relationship based on mutual respect and genuine love rather than obligation and criticism. Until then, I wish everyone well and ask for understanding as I create necessary distance. With that letter sent, I felt a chapter of my life truly close. Whatever came next would be written on my own terms. 6 months passed each day, bringing small victories and occasional setbacks on my journey toward a healthier, more balanced life. The immediate aftermath of my decision had been difficult, with persistent calls from unknown numbers, which I suspected were my mother using friends' phones, flying monkey messages from relatives taking her side, and even a tearful visit from my Aunt Patricia trying to broker a reconciliation. Throughout it all, I held firm to my boundaries, while remaining compassionate toward everyone involved, including myself. I began seeing a therapist specializing in family trauma, who helped me understand the dysfunctional patterns I'd been entangled in and develop strategies for moving forward without guilt overwhelming me. Financially, the change was immediate and significant. Without the burden of my mother's medical expenses, I was able to start building savings for the first time in my adult life. 3 months after cutting ties, I had enough for a modest down payment on a small one-bedroom condo in a pleasant neighborhood, not far from the hospital where I worked. Marcus helped me move in his quiet support, never wavering throughout this challenging period. Our relationship had deepened through the crisis, his steadfast presence a healing counterpoint to the volatility I'd grown up with. "What do you think?" I asked him as we stood in my new living room surrounded by half-unpacked boxes and mismatched furniture. "It's not much, but it's all mine." He wrapped his arms around me from behind, resting his chin on my shoulder. "I think it's perfect, just like its owner." Not everything was smooth sailing, of course. I received occasional updates about my mother from family members who respected my boundaries but thought I should know how she was doing. Apparently, after exhausting her options with friends and relatives, she had discovered the patient assistance programs I'd referenced in my final letter. She was receiving treatment through a combination of these programs and state medical assistance proof that she had never truly needed my financial support to the extent she'd claimed. This confirmation should have been vindication, but instead it brought a complex mixture of emotions: relief that she wasn't suffering medically, anger at the years of unnecessary sacrifice I'd made, and sadness that our relationship had been built on such manipulation rather than genuine connection. 4 months after our separation, my mother began a campaign to reestablish contact. It started with birthday cards, and seemingly innocent texts from new phone numbers escalated to messages through mutual acquaintances and culminated in her showing up unannounced at my workplace, creating a scene that required security intervention. Each attempt featured the same emotional manipulation techniques that had controlled me for years: guilt obligation, exaggerated medical concerns, and eventually, when those didn't work, rage and accusations. But something fundamental had changed in me. I could recognize these tactics for what they were now, and they no longer had power over me. After the workplace incident, I sent a brief but firm email reiterating my boundaries and stating that any further attempts at forced contact would result in a restraining order. It was the first time I had ever made a threat I fully intended to follow through on, and perhaps she sensed this new resolve because the direct contact attempts stopped. Throughout this period, I maintained connections with family members who respected my boundaries, particularly Aunt Patricia and Uncle Robert, who had witnessed firsthand the dynamic between my mother and me at that fateful dinner. They didn't always understand my decisions, but they supported my right to make them, which was all I asked. Tara remained distant, her YouTube channel pivoting away from family drama to fashion and lifestyle content, after several content creators called her out for the ethics of her live streaming practices. I heard through family that she had apologized to my mother for removing the video, but never reached out to apologize to me. I found I didn't need or expect her apology anymore. As the 6-month mark approached, Marcus surprised me with a weekend getaway to a small coastal town we'd talked about visiting. The timing couldn't have been better. Work had been particularly demanding, and I needed the break. On our second evening there, walking along the beach at sunset, he turned to me with an expression of such tenderness that it took my breath away. "Whitney," he began, taking both my hands in his, "these past months have shown me something remarkable about you. I've watched you set boundaries, prioritize your well-being, and rebuild your life with such grace and strength. I've fallen more in love with you every day." My heart raced as he dropped to one knee, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. "I don't want to rush you, and we can have as long an engagement as you need, but I know without a doubt that you're the woman I want to build a life with. Whitney Pierce, will you marry me?" Tears filled my eyes, but unlike so many tears I'd shed over the years, these were pure joy. "Yes," I whispered, then louder, "yes." As he slid the simple but elegant ring onto my finger, I felt a circle completing. Not the toxic cycle of my past, but a new one built on mutual respect, genuine care, and healthy love. Upon our return, I shared the news with my supportive family members, but made no effort to inform my mother. She would find out eventually through the family grapevine, and I had no obligation to manage her reaction or emotions around my happiness. In therapy, I continued to work through the complex grief of losing the mother I had always hoped for, while accepting the reality of the mother I actually had. Some days were harder than others, but even the difficult moments no longer derailed me as they once had. The most important thing, my therapist reminded me during a particularly emotional session, is that forgiveness doesn't require reconciliation. You can forgive your mother for your own peace without allowing her back into your life. This distinction was crucial to my healing. I was working toward forgiveness not to excuse what had happened or to reestablish contact, but to release myself from the burden of anger and resentment I carried. It was slow work but necessary. As Marcus and I began planning our small wedding for the following spring, I reflected on how much had changed in just 6 months. I had a home of my own, a loving partner, healthy relationships with supportive family members and friends, and financial security I'd never known before. Most importantly, I had reclaimed my sense of self-worth from the crushing weight of my mother's criticism and manipulation. The journey wasn't over, and I knew there would be challenges ahead. My mother might escalate her attempts at contact, as the wedding approached family pressure might increase, and my own resolve might waver in moments of nostalgia or doubt. But I had built a foundation of self-respect that could weather these storms. I'd learned that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to walk away from those who cannot love you in the way you deserve. That setting boundaries isn't selfish, but essential. That you can love someone deeply while recognizing that their presence in your life is harmful. Most of all, I'd learned that I was not defined by my mother's perception of me as a desperate failure, but by my own actions, choices, and the authentic connections I built with others. As I sit here now writing this from the small sunlit office in my new condo engagement ring catching the light as I type, I want to share this message with anyone facing similar struggles with toxic family members. You are not obligated to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. You deserve relationships that build you up rather than tear you down. And sometimes, the bravest, most loving choice you can make is to walk away with your head held high. Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with family members who didn't respect you? How did you find the strength to stand up for yourself? Share your stories in the comments below, and remember to like and subscribe for more real-life experiences and lessons learned the hard way. Thank you for being part of this journey with me. And remember, choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's necessary for building the life you truly deserve.